Nick Darr here, getting ready to shoot another episode of Business Over Brew, which wouldn't be possible if not for our great sponsors at Roberts Motors. You know the Roberts Motors name. They've been around since 1949. Definitely a name that means quality. We certainly appreciate their support of not only this show, but all they do for the community. You talk about a local business that gets it in terms of supporting great community causes and just being involved in the community. The guys at Roberts Motors, Sam, John, the rest of the crew there, they really understand what it means to be a good business citizen in the community, and they've done that for a lot of years. If you're in the market for a vehicle, you know the car industry has been a little upside down lately in terms of inventory. They're starting to get more and more vehicles on the lot. Starting to see some new Broncos out there, so go check that out. A little more pre-owned inventory as well. They're certainly always in the market to give you a great deal if you're looking to sell your vehicle as well. Now's a great time to do that. And maybe something we don't talk about enough is just a really great top-notch service center at Roberts Motors. If you need work done to your car, you need tires, oil change, any kind of service work, Roberts Motors is really a terrific place to consider. And they would just appreciate the opportunity to do business with you, whether it's buying a vehicle, buying your vehicle from you, or getting some work done to your vehicle. Check out Roberts Motors on Albee Street in Alton or at robertsmotors.com. Welcome to Business Over a Brew. Pleased to be joined in this episode by Dana King from Heaterz, Alton Sports Tap, and some to be announced other businesses coming your way soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's just start with Alton Sports Tap. It's been an establishment in the community for a long time. Talk about the decision to buy it and just kind of those initial stages of taking it over.
Absolutely. So 18 months ago was when we officially took over. It was, I think, in November or December in 20. So coming out of the pandemic, I was looking at doing something a little bit differently. I spent my career in healthcare. I was spending a lot of time traveling. I was doing some at-risk Medicare programs and just looking at making a change. I was working with a few business brokers actually looking at getting into home health. Mm-hmm. And I stumbled across an ad which sounded very familiar. Metro East Sports Bar, sand volleyball courts. And it just raised a little bit of awareness, and I just kind of, let me find out a little bit more. So I called the business broker, went and met with them, did the paperwork, and sure enough, it was Sports Tap. As a young boy, I loved Sports Tap.
Right.
We were talking about the belt line. I remember driving down the belt line.
The belt line. That's what old guys call it.
The old guys call it the belt line. And people were always playing volleyball. Growing up, I'm like, man, that looks like a fun place to hang out. Or the coaches would always go there after different games. And we ended up finding out that it was Sports Tap. We live a couple miles from there. We love that restaurant, always loved the menu, and it just seemed like an opportunity for change. Big risk, but had opportunities that wouldn't normally present themselves. Went to school to try to get in business for a long time, and it just kind of made sense, and my wife gave me the green light, which I didn't expect.
That's really key in going into any business, getting the green light from the wife, right?
That's tough, but she did. I don't think she regrets it yet, although things just keep kind of compounding right now, but we dove right in. Went 100 miles an hour, but the first 90 days of any business is just learning everything, asking questions and being present, just listening and learning, and we've just kind of evolved the business, but took its strengths and ran with them and did a couple cosmetic updates, new volleyball courts, new TVs, just a few things, let the community know we're reinvesting into it, and here we are today.
I feel like just outside looking in, they just kind of went in and breathed some life into it. I feel like the volleyball thing, you weren't seeing that a lot anymore driving by it, and since you've taken it over, the parking lot's full and there's volleyball going on, so that's obviously been a big part of the strategy, it seems.
Absolutely. It was listening to the people. Why do you come to Sports Tap? Why do you love Sports Tap? Well, I've played volleyball here for 15 years.
Right.
I've always came here. I came here as a kid. My parents played volleyball here. Except when we were looking around, we had 6.9 acres of commercial real estate. We were very fortunate to have that. So looking around, how do we repurpose some of this land?
Right.
The volleyball courts were a little expensive, but in the long run, it makes sense. For example, Wednesday nights, we have 23 teams alone.
Right.
That's 100 plus volleyball players guaranteed to come every Wednesday, and spreading the word. We've gotten teams from St. Louis all the way to different bars in Edwardsville have put teams in this year. So,
and most of them aren't going home after the game. They're coming in having a drink or having a meal. So that's a great strategy. I always remember it as, it's changed so much, just the sports bar industry. It used to be, okay, everybody would gather and watch a game there. And fewer games were on TV, and I always remember driving by Sports Tap for the big satellite dish. It's like, oh, I could probably watch, some sports on there. But now we all have 14, different streaming services, and there's a lot of different ways to watch sports at home. Plus, home TVs have improved so much. So I feel like that is still part of your strategy, but not nearly as much as it was back in the original days, the early days of Sports Tap.
Couldn't agree more. Everything, and now, in addition to that, we're seeing Apple TV, Apple Plus, YouTube TV. So although we think we have every game now, we're learning to find out there's all kinds of people in different streaming services offering these games, which
right.
is...
It might be kind of cycling back in a way, because I saw Albert Pujols while we're videoing this, Pujols hit his 700th home run, I guess, last Friday. And it was on Apple TV.
Yes.
And just the outrage on social media about not being able to see it and watch that historic moment. And somebody tweeted out about all you have to do to watch every Major League game is have these 14 services, So, and most people, I wouldn't, or a lot of people are not going to buy a service just to watch one Friday night game. So it might be beneficial to you guys if you have them all, then people know, well, I'm not going to get a service, but I'll go to Sports Tap and have a beer and watch the game.
Right. And that's helped us with current football season.
Right.
We have every NFL game, so it doesn't matter what geographical viewing region you're in. We have every football game. So that has helped us, but I think there's other things you have to do to bring people in the bar too. How do you make this team friendly? So we get big teams after ball games who maybe want to stick around and watch the late night Cardinal game or a football game. And how do we stay available for all ages, all groups, not just sports people, but at the same time, make sure we show all the games, make sure you can hear the games, because that plays into the environment.
That's huge, right?
We didn't have sound.
Right.
So when we're sitting here and Albert Pujols hit a 700, me and you might not know.
Right.
You know without sound, but now long ball
Then
going
you
to
see
left
the replay,
field. And
like, oh, look,
everyone cheers, and
Right.
now it blows up with eruption. It just creates the environment a little more exciting when you're watching it in a group like that.
Absolutely, 100%. So you had 18 months ago Sports Tap, and then talk a little bit about the progression to adding a few other things to the portfolio.
Wonderful. I was fortunate. I was able to learn authentic Nashville hot chicken very, very early on.
Right.
When only a couple places were doing it in Nashville. And I brought Sports Tap. I knew I had that kind of wild card in my pocket. So pulled that card out and said, let's test this market. No one's really doing it here. We have a pretty good recipe. Just come out with a sandwich. And then the sandwich really took off. So, okay, let's put on our kebabs. Let's put on our fish. Let's come up with a pork ribeye. And we just kept trying it on things, and the response was great.
Right.
We kept getting good feedback. So that led me to evolve this. How do we come up with something that we can replicate and scale? What's something with a small enough footprint that we're not going to put ourselves behind the eight ball if things go wrong? How do we mitigate some risk? And perfect timing was when the former Mini Corral building became available on 1500 Main Street. It's like, barrier to entry is easy. This is a very diverse neighborhood and market to test it in. It's an affordable food. And we started off with 5 entrees, 5 sides, and a couple specialties. I mean, our spice rack can fit on this table. Our ordering can take 15 minutes. So I think we're able to alleviate a lot of the labor intensity and the order intensity and come up with a simple menu that hopefully we could scale and replicate. We opened March 24th. It's been phenomenal. Our feedback's been phenomenal. It's opened a lot of doors to other discussions with people in all various businesses and different opportunities. We were able to expand into Swansea. So we did a different market there at a place called Social Kitchen. It's a food truck park. They have an actual brick and mortar restaurant called the Social Kitchen there. It's a very neat place. And we were able to bolt our menu on to their restaurant. So their labor, their overhead, kind of in the sense of a ghost kitchen, but our brand getting sold there. So we still oversee the quality control and everything like that and some of the marketing, but another way to get our brand out there. Since then, we're opening Kirkwood now on October the 7th, and a food truck is coming by the end of next week. So a couple new markets to test this in, but the point of the Heaterz was to scale it and replicate it.
Right. So you went from 0 to about 5 in a year and a half.
I've lost my mind. Yes, I have. That itch. You get the itch and you get the passion. And
right. How do you balance? It's like getting a new toy. You start something new, but you don't want to ignore. I feel like Sports Tap's kind of still the bread and butter, and obviously very important to what you guys are doing. So how do you balance that with starting something new, but also keeping focus on, the core?
That's a great question. That's tough. It is. And oftentimes, right when we're about to launch a new business, or when we're going into Kirkwood, or when we went into Swansea, those 2-3 week period, a week before, 2 weeks after, I feel guilty. Because I'm not at Sports Tap as much as I'd like to be. I'm not at the Alton Heaterz location. And I know how important those are.
Right.
And like you said, Sports Tap's the most important business that we own. That has been there. That's the rock of our whole restaurant group. So we're really trying to facilitate a movement from people to practices and to policies. And how do we shift the need off of people to just how we're doing things? So everything's written down. Everything's a policy and procedure. We're trying to have standard operating procedures for everything, recipe books for everything, checklists, just to maintain that consistency. Because as we've learned, when management's not present, things change. So my management team's also growing. I'm very aware of that. So I'm trying to grow and develop a management team, have them replicate the same behaviors that I think are important in those establishments, and remain adaptable, because there's problems every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
One of the problems that most restaurant owners have experienced over the last couple of years, especially, is the finding and hiring of people. It's been a challenge in the restaurant industry. I know. Talk a little bit about, how you guys have tackled that.
Absolutely. Definitely a tough subject. I always think we're 1 or 2 people away from being in a real dire strait, but somehow we've hung on. And I think a lot of times people quit their boss, not their job. So as long as we're practicing leadership and we're mobilizing our whole team, our whole group of people to a better place, practice what we preach, be authentic, you can generally keep your team. Listen to what they need, and then offer them incentives when you can. Reward them when you can. Provide feedback. I think feedback inherently leads to job satisfaction. Did a lot of research on that. So making sure when people aren't doing something right, it's how you tell them.
Right.
It's get them moving forward.
Well, I've read or seen things that talk about, restaurants are a high stress environment to work in, and a lot of times that creates maybe not treating employees in a way that's great. So then when the pandemic hit and a lot of restaurants had to close down, employees went and found something different and thought, wow, I don't get yelled at here.
Exactly. I get to take a bathroom break here. I get to take a break or go to lunch or whatever the things we don't let our teams do because they can't. But I mean, not that we don't let them, but when you get carried away in the middle of a shift, that's...
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I coached football for a few years, and I talk to people coaching football in a way that I would never talk to them like in the real world. And it's probably a little bit like that in the restaurant. When you get a rush in the restaurant business, it's like, hey, we got to communicate this quickly. I don't have time to sugarcoat it for you.
I love my please and thank yous, but sometimes it's, will you do this? Go wipe table 18. There's people ready to get sat.
Yeah. But then at the end of the day, I would think it's a feeling of, man, we did well tonight.
Yes. Yes. Always after the rush, there's that kind of relief, or a little excitement, and after excitement, and when you settle down, you kind of have that level of satisfaction. Like, we did complete that. People left here, they had a great night. I impacted their service, or things of that nature.
Right. I want to talk to you a little bit about just your childhood growing up, because your brother Pat's been on the show, and obviously you guys both have this real entrepreneurial spirit. Talk a little bit about where that came from.
That's a great question. I guess I was mostly inspired by him. Pat always did everything the right way, the straight and narrow path. 4-year.
That's not you?
That's not me. 4-year degree, double major. It took me 7.5 to get out, but I had a lot more fun.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
I guess, healthcare taught me a lot of lessons. It taught me that food business isn't that serious. So although that rush is serious,
right,
we're handing people burgers, they're having beers, they're watching a game. Like, let's not forget why people are here. I've always thought in terms of leading people, even as a staff nurse. When I would have 3 or 4 patients, I was impacting 3 or 4 patients' lives.
Right.
When I became the manager, I'm impacting 5 nurses who are each impacting 3 or 4 people's lives.
Sure.
And I feel like that in the business world, it's the same thing. I hope I'm able to take my team. So I have people from high school, in college, all the way through their careers who are working there. And how do I teach them skills? How do I get them to where they want to be in their life? And it can be very rewarding.
Right.
But Pat, I just try to keep up with him. He's always been very smart, very inspiring. He gives me sound advice. And he's kind of helped, he encouraged me also at the restaurant when I was getting into it. He's like, you should do it, and he's been a very big supporter of me and publicly, and it's been wonderful.
Right, I'm sure privately too.
I don't know about that.
He always says nice things about you. I talk about some other mentors that you've had in the restaurant industry and just in getting this thing going.
Absolutely. One of the biggest mentors I've had in this industry is one of our food sale reps. His name's Barrett. He hasn't been doing it that many years, but he's owned restaurants, he's owned businesses, and he was ready to get rid of the stress and have, kind of a 9 to 5, although it's not quite, but one of those type jobs. And I think he always does a great job of bringing me back down to what is our goal for today? What do we need to accomplish today to get us through till tomorrow? He has a lot of great experience in all different restaurants, and let me tell you what's going on over here, and he gives me a lot more of what's going on in the current market. So I feel hospitality is like healthcare. Treat people right. That's the main thing.
Right.
You can miss on the burger a little bit. If you're really good to them, they'll be a little forgiving.
Sure.
But you can't keep missing on the burger,
Right.
right? But so I think he's been a great mentor to me in that aspect. The previous owner, Rick Evans, took me under his wing when I first got into it. He spent a lot of time. He had his phone on 24/7. Even to a fact when I'd go out of town, he'd come help. So he was another inspiration to me and patted me on the back. Like, here's what you're doing really well. Keep going. Keep doing it. So
That's one of the things I love about being in this world of, getting to talk with business owners all the time, and it's a lot of times it feels a little bit like an island because nobody at your work is going through what you're going through. They kind of don't understand it. I mean, they're coming and showing up for work. So, but the spirit of just helping each other, other business owners, is really strong in the small business and entrepreneurial community. So it's great that that Rick was like that with you, and we've all had people like that have helped us. Though it benefited them, not at all.
Right. Just out of the goodness of their hearts.
Right.
But I've had quite a few people help me in that aspect.
What's been the maybe the most surprising or frustrating aspect of it?
That's a good question. Well, one of the biggest surprises that I had caught off guard was I thought we just beat the pandemic. I bought it in 2021.
Sure, yeah.
We were coming out. The end of 21, it felt like we were getting past the pandemic, and
Here we
I
go.
thought the economy was turning around and the supply issues.
Right.
And then, holy smokes, the supply chain's still not recovered. We're running out of things we've never ran out of before.
Right.
Inflation has gone through the roof, and it's balancing that. We're a mom and pop restaurant, but our prices have gone up, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%.
Right.
And how can you pass that to the consumer without ticking them off, because they're used to getting their whitefish dinner here for $10.99, and if I sell it at $12.99, it's still worse for me than what it is at $10.99, 6 months ago. So I think the uncertainties in the market have been. I thought I held out until we were getting in a better place, and the market uncertainties have continued. The supply chain is still broken. I don't think costs are under control.
Right.
And then our minimum wage and labor rates keep increasing as well. So it's how do you do more with less?
Right. I wonder about, everybody has an opinion about how, food service and restaurants should work, because we've all eaten, at restaurants. So I'm sure there was something that you're like, why don't restaurants do this? But then when you own one, it's like, oh, maybe that's why. Is there anything you can point to?
There's. I guess one of the things is, why do wings take 45 minutes to come out? And we're guilty of that to this day. Like, how the hell am I sitting down for dinner and I'm ordering, something in a fryer that takes 7 minutes and it's been an hour?
Yeah.
And it's just the complexity of the kitchen. Was there somebody off? Did somebody call off?
Yeah.
How complex is your menu? Because maybe everyone else on that ticket had a 4-piece fried chicken breast that took 25 minutes.
Right, yeah.
And we didn't get a chance to throw the fried chicken down because there was 20 tickets ahead of you. But I'm starting to understand wait time's a little bit better, but I'm not the most patient person. So.
Sure. Well, just if you've ever cooked at your house for a lot of people and tried to get everything on the table at the same time, it's not easy to do.
It's hard.
And you're talking about a business full of people.
And we're talking a menu. We're used to open this page and then open this page.
Yours is
and
kind of a
flip
book.
it over, and it's like, how the hell do we do all this so
Right.
well?
Yeah. Well, you're doing a
and
great
quick.
job at it.
Thank you. We've shrunk the menu some. I see us in the future paring it down
Right.
a little bit more because I don't want anyone ever to make an average or a bad decision on the menu.
Let me just say, do not take the chicken wrap off the menu.
Deal.
That's
Deal.
good stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's not going anywhere.
All right, good, because I had it the other day. It was tremendous. If people want to learn more about Sports Tap or just come check you out, how can they do that?
Yeah, so altonsportstap.com, 618-465-2539 if you have any inquiries about our banquet hall, volleyball leagues,
forgot to
anything
mention
like
that.
that. Or heaterzchicken.com. It's updated with our new locations, and our food truck will be coming to Madison County very soon. So if anybody has any interest in that, we'd love to test it out in a few locations soon. So
Awesome. Danny, congratulations on your
Thank you.
success. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.